pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bolin,
Present.
Commissioner Peterson,
Present.
Commissioner Bacon,
Present.
Temporary Chair Al Metcalf.
Present.
Your Chair. We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting of last month.
Commissioner Metcalf, there was a little bit of issue with the video recording that is being resolved, so we'll just have to write them and bring them back to you.
Okay.
It's been repaired. It was a glitch in the system, but they're good. They're good. We just got to get them up.
Old business.
None.
New business. Cool PZ 1911 KLC2 rezoning request for Cool PZ 1911-49 and 1911-51 initiated by property owners for approximately 2.72 acres of land located at 1113 and 1117 East Vauquian Road in the KLC Ranch subdivision, Coolidge, Arizona, changing the zoning from planned area development to agriculture, legally described as follows. Lots 5 and 7 of KLC Ranch Lots 1-8 as recorded in Cabinet C, Slide 83 in the Office of the County Recorder, Pinal County, Arizona.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, this is one you've heard before, where we're rezoning KLC Ranch properties from PAD into agricultural, which help with the setbacks and to make some corrections so people could build accessory buildings in the back, and also the height issue in agriculture versus PAD. So we recommend approval of these two lots from PAD to AG, and I'll answer any questions you may have along with our esteemed colleague, Mr. Hanson.
Ken?
No questions.
No questions. Open the hearing to public. Anyone wishing to speak, please step to the podium and state your name and address. No one wishes to speak. Close the meeting to the public. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Cool PZ 19-11-KLC2.
I'll second.
Motion has been made to approve, and a second of 1911 KLC2. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Passes. Cool PZ 191252. A conditional use permit application submitted by Premier Extractions LLC for a hemp processing facility located at 789 South Christensen Road, Coolidge, Arizona. APNs 209-24-1020 and 209-24-1013A, Resolution 20-01. Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the applicant, Premier Extractions LLC, is proposing to do some hemp processing on a property as listed on the map. They also went before council just in a call to the public and assisted in presenting just information in general about the process. They believe they have a PowerPoint that they can share with you to kind of tell you about the process, and it'll help you understand what they're doing. From my understanding, there's no smell, and things are controlled. So if you'd like, Mr. Chair, you can ask them to go ahead and proceed unless Mr. Hanson has something else to add. I don't know if you do at this point. Tim?
I have nothing at this time. If you would like to see their presentation prior to the public hearing, or prior to opening to the public, we can do that.
Well, let me talk to the rest of the board and see if they need to see it.
Yes, sir.
Ken?
I have some questions.
Okay?
I don't understand what hemp processing is. Is that video going to make me understand what hemp processing is? I want to see
Okay.
the video.
Okay?
I'm good. I'm happy to see it.
Okay? Let's see your video. Or your PowerPoint presentation. Would you step to the mic and give your name and who you represent?
Absolutely. My name is Jeffrey Slater from Premier Extractions. I live in Chandler. My associate is Nate Hastings. He's handing out to you just a summary of the presentation this evening. And so I'd like to just answer any questions that you might have for us. First of all, Commissioners, thank you very much for inviting us and allowing us to present this to you. We're considering, as you know, the property located at 789 South Christensen Road, which is in the southeast portion of Coolidge, for our business. So the question was raised by Commissioner Bolin. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. What is processing? I hope to answer that question. So the two major questions we have most often is what is CBD? What is extraction? Where does it come from? And so we want to start out by answering those two questions, as well as how was it extracted, and then we'll talk about the facility, possible permit requirements, and then give a brief summary and answer any questions that you might have. So what is CBD? It's just short for cannabidiol, which is one of over 100 molecular compounds found within the hemp plant. The compound can be isolated also to make materials and goods that can be used in consumer products. We take a biomass, which is the hemp, and produce oil from it. It has several benefits. As you watch some shows, maybe Dr. Oz or some other shows that talks about what are the medical benefits of CBD. It's been helped to relieve some of the suffering from epilepsy, pain relief, anxiety, etc. Most importantly, it has no psychoactive effect. That's a question we get quite often, a question I had before I got into it. And for those science nerds out there, here's the molecular formula for CBD. So, is it marijuana? That's another question we get quite often. I think the important thing to remember is with hemp you extract CBD, and from marijuana you generally want to have a high content of something called THC. I'll go through what that is. Industrial hemp contains less than 0.3% of THC, which is a psychoactive effect or compound, which is why you can't get high from it. Marijuana typically contains between 10 and 30% of THC. Again, CBD has no psychoactive effect, but marijuana is designed, as you probably know, to get you high, and it's done through that THC. You might be aware that in 2018, the U.S. Senate passed the Farm Bill, or Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, which legalized the cultivation, farming, and processing and consuming of hemp and hemp-related products. And summarily, Arizona passed State Bill 1098, which mirrored the federal bill under ARS Title III. Well, compare that to marijuana. Marijuana has not been legalized at the federal level, and it is legal in Arizona for medical purposes, but not for recreational use. Now, to help illustrate this a little bit more, we have a quick video that explains the difference between marijuana and hemp.
Often, people become confused between the terms cannabis, hemp, and marijuana. Cannabis is a category for a plant species that includes both hemp and marijuana. For a lot of people, the best way to think about cannabis is with an analogy. Hemp and marijuana are to cannabis as lemons and oranges are to citrus. Two related but different plants from the same family. Indeed, Looking at the two plants, the physical differences are clear. Hemp is a tall, hardy plant with less branching, allowing the whole plant to be utilized. Marijuana, on the other hand, is encouraged to become short and bushy and grow lots of flowers. In practical use, hemp is the term used to describe the food and fiber variety of the cannabis plant. And marijuana is cannabis that's grown to enhance the chemical tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. Due to selective breeding over many years, concentrations of THC in marijuana range from 10% to as much as 30%. Conversely, hemp is almost devoid of THC, but often high in another cannabinoid called cannabidiol, or CBD. Hemp has 0.3% THC or less, while the threshold for marijuana starts at a THC concentration of 0.31% or higher. In other words, hemp has 33 times less THC than the least potent marijuana, effectively making it impossible to get high from hemp. Both forms of cannabis, hemp and marijuana, have been shown to contain medically beneficial levels of differing cannabinoids, active compounds found in the cannabis plant. However, because hemp oil is extracted from high CBD, low THC cannabis, it doesn't produce psychoactive effects the way THC does, making it a safe and legal option for all age groups and demographics.
Okay, so while we've reserved a little bit of time at the end for questions, you can chime in any time if you have any questions or anything you'd like for me to expound upon. Nate's going to hand out what's called a tincture, which is really just a bottle of oil that's going to be the end product. Now, we're not going to be producing these as consumer products like the tinctures here, but the product that's inside of it, we will be producing more en masse, and we would sell them by the liter and not by those small vials. We'll be selling it for people to put in those tinctures and other products. So, how is it extracted from the oil? So, when I first started looking into this, my mind was kind of obfuscated by all the different processes and how it's done. But it's really simple, 3 steps. The first one is the CBD is pulled from the biomass, and in our case, it's going to be we're going to be using ethanol in a vacuum to pull it from the biomass, from the plant material. Step number 2, the ethanol is recovered from the CBD, separated out, so then what is left is the oil and the ethanol that can be reused in the next batch. And then the 3rd step is the CBD is further refined into a distillated form that can be used in end products. The machines that we'll be procuring, they're not difficult to operate. However, we do want to employ very skilled labor. It's not cheap materials or equipment that we have, and so we want to make sure that we're hiring people that are of high caliber and that can operate these at a high proficiency. And here's one other video, just real briefly, showing you the process in a little bit better detail. That yellow there is what we call the gold. That's what we're trying to get to. Okay. So in summary, CBD is not addictive and has many health benefits. The extraction method includes no high-pressure equipment. It's all done through a vacuum. No burning of any kind is needed for the extraction process. The proposed use will attract skilled labor. The biomass is dried and stored in a secure contained area, so that's not out in the open. And then finally, the process produces no loud noise and no adverse odors. So we can move on to the facility itself. The property, as you know, is 789 South Christensen Road. It's currently zoned I-1, which is garden industrial. The surrounding property uses, we have to the north agriculture, which is on the far side of a canal. On the south, same thing, agricultural, on the far side of a canal. On the east side, we also have agricultural. And on the west side is Christensen Road, and on the other side of Christensen Road is Kenilworth Sports Center. I hope I pronounced Kenilworth correctly. Thank you. And so the proposed use that we have, of course, is for the CBD extraction, and another name for that is hemp processing. Many of you may know that structure out there has been around since the 1950s, the original structures. Since you're on the Planning and Zoning Committee, I assume that you're familiar a little bit with the zoning map. This gives an indication of where the property is. Let's see, I don't know if you can see my pointer right there. And then the aerial view kind of shows you about where the property is in relation to the other major improvements within the city. This slide shows the improvements that are currently on the property. The primary thing that we want to illustrate here is on the other side, let's go back here. On the other side of Christensen Road is the park, and the portion of this property that we're going to be using for our processing is on the far side. In fact, when I first got to the property and was driving in the roadways up here, I couldn't see this building back here. We were supposed to meet a person there to view it, and I couldn't see it from the road, and I couldn't see it from when we drove in. So it's not obvious even that it's there because it's hidden by the other structures. Buildings number 2, 4, and 5 are warehouses. Building 3 is an office. Building 6 is a manufactured unit. And then, of course, you've got a couple of covered areas there. So just a matter of note, it's not visible, the area that we're going to be extracting from Kenilworth Sports Center.
Is that the new building on the very back side?
It is. Very nice facility. It's fairly new, and it's air conditioned, and it's insulated. We're very pleased to potentially be doing our business there. So the current uses there at the property. I don't know anything about their current permitting to operate these, but it's what's currently used. Right now, we've got a landscaping and sales service in buildings 4 and 6. I believe in the handouts you have a copy of those buildings where they're located on the prior slide. There's also in building 2 and 3, which the office facility and adjacent warehouse. There's a commercial security company. There's a road paving and painting company that's occupying building number 5, and a vending machine storage company in building number 1. They were there when we first viewed the property. It's my understanding that now their lease is expired, and so they may have vacated the premises. The prior use, as many of you may know, was as a cotton gin, and so we have no intent on resurrecting that use in any way. Okay, so the next slide we have here, there are 2 parcels, as was indicated before, associated with the property. What we're going to be talking about from here on out is that portion that is fenced by a chain link fence that has barbed wire on it, if you guys have driven by it. And so we're going to be talking about that portion. This is a part of an alpha survey that was conducted on the property previously. And then here we've kind of isolated a couple of key points of that alpha survey. The first one is there's currently a 33-foot roadway that's been established. Now, I looked for this at docket number 375, page 572, and Pinal County Records couldn't find it. maybe if you guys have a way for us to pull it up, I wanted to read about it, find out is it an easement or how is it that they've established that roadway. Secondly, on the right-hand side there, you'll see a gas pipeline easement. The reason why this concerns us is it might prevent us from paving or doing some improvements in that portion of it. We're not sure. I just wanted to bring it up for your consideration. Furthermore, there are 4 septic tanks on the property. The Alta survey did not identify where those are at, but that also might prevent us from putting in further improvements for your consideration. Next slide. This is as is. This is what it looks like. What you don't see here is if you were to turn around from any of these angles, you would see Kenilworth Sports Complex. What Nate and I would like to do is enhance the curb appeal of the property. Obviously, it's a bit of an eyesore, for lack of a better word, and we want to make it more presentable to the public. We also don't want any signage on the property indicating anything about hemp or hemp processing, primarily for security reasons.
So the building would be operating and it's behind all that stuff?
That's right. Yeah, you can't see it.
You can't, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But we still want to make it look nice. So then we were thinking, well, how can we do that? One way is by getting some type of a wall. So we're considering a block or some type of a hedge across the front. This hedge would be a decorative hedge, and behind it would be chain link with the barbed wire for safety. And after considering these 2 options, we figured the best as far as appeal and safety would be the hedge, which I'll illustrate on this next slide here. The block wall is less secure. How is a block wall less secure? Well, it's easily scalable, and we want to be able to easily see if people are coming in and out. The block wall allows people to jump it up and over pretty easily. It's less attractive than the hedge, and it doesn't blend well with the environment. Whereas the decorative hedge creates greater security, enhances the attractiveness, and blends well with the existing improvements. We also feel that it will also protect our employees and our assets a little bit better as well. In addition to that, we have other safety measures, security systems that we're going to put in place. So, salient points. No loud noises and no adverse smell. The extraction process will take place in the building that's furthest from Christensen Road and consequently furthest from Kenilworth Sports Complex. The decorative hedge will enhance the appeal of the property. No signage indicating hemp. On-site security will promote safety, not only on our property but in the area as well. Future expansion will bring an aesthetic enhancements in the future. And the proposed use may foster economic growth, and we really sincerely hope it does. Next couple of just real key points. We've addressed this a little bit already. What about Kenilworth Sports Complex across the street? The on-site security and improvements will complement the park. Question number 2, will the proposed use attract unsavory characters? Well, no. There will be no public sales of the product and no hemp signage. Next question, will the facility attract skilled labor? Yes, of course. We want good skilled labor. Furthermore, the intended starting salary will be well above the median household income for Coolidge. Commissioners, thank you very much for allowing us to share this with you. Do you have any questions at this time?
Yes.
Please.
What's a gallon of oil worth?
I know. So
Well, it
it's a lot
depends
more
on what
than
you mean.
anybody thinks.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by oil. There's a lot of different types of
CBD
oil. The CBD oil, there's 3 types of ways it can be distillated or increase the amount of the amount of CBD within the oil. Right now, it's running about $2,000 for a liter of distillate oil.
Okay. That answered the question.
I should also add to that the price has been declining. And we have from good sources that it's probably at the bottom of the market right now due to the amount of biomass that's out there and the demand and supply of it. Thank you for that question, Commissioner Metcalf.
Are you going to have storage for hemp on the property? Are you going to store the raw product after it's been harvested? Is it going to be brought in and stored at your facility, or?
Yeah. So the process
we
is.
didn't address that. We looked at the process, but not.
Yep. So you take what's called the biomass. The biomass comes in these sacks. It will be stored on site. It should be. I should explain to you that it's dried when it comes in. It's not wet, and it has been milled, and so it's compacted into these sacks that have far less of an odor. You'd have to get right up to it and sniff it to. And it is going to be indoors. We don't want this exposed for various reasons. One is security, and then the second thing is we don't want it to degrade and to be open to the elements. So it's going to be housed within one of those warehouses.
Okay. Now, are you going to buy the whole facility there?
Yes, sir.
You're going to own that whole thing, and then it's going to be, you can do or use the whole thing if you want to.
Right now, there are tenants in place, as I had illustrated kind of earlier on. One of those tenants, their lease does not expire for a couple of years, and so they're going to maintain their business there in conjunction with ours. It's our intent that once their lease is expired, that we'll not renew that, so that we can utilize that space.
Okay.
My turn?
Go for it, Kenny.
Okay. You keep talking about security.
Yes, sir.
Are there other hemp sites, processing sites in Arizona or in the United States?
There are several hemp processing sites. In fact, Nate and I have been privileged to visit one in California. And this is when we were starting to investigate what is this thing all about, how does it work. So yeah, as far as in Arizona, we have not visited any hemp processing sites in Arizona. I imagine maybe there are. They might be able to speak to this.
What kind of security concerns are they facing at the California plant?
Mm-hmm.
There's a new facility opening up in downtown Phoenix. I'm not really sure about the crossroads of it. Typical security with these are, obviously a thin structure around it. Oftentimes they have a guard, armed or unarmed. Camera systems, typically monitored off-site. So it's eyes are on the property 24/7.
But the value is in the extracted oil, not in the hemp itself.
Yes and no. Yes, you're right. That's where the value is monetized. But without the biomass, without the plant material, there is no oil.
Right, but nobody's going to walk in and pick up and load a semi-truck full of hemp bags if they can find the oil in the building.
Correct.
They'd rather take the oil. It takes a pickup truck to carry it away.
Absolutely. You're watching your oil the whole time.
Okay. You're going to process this hemp, and you're going to store this processed biomass when you're done with it on site. What is going to happen to it? Is it going to just become a huge pile? Well, how are you going to dispose of it? Where is it going?
You want to take it or you want me to?
You know
Yeah. So the biomass comes in. We mentioned milled, and I saw you, Mr. Metcalf. By milled, it's ground down.
Sure.
Kind of like hay, if you will. At that point, it goes through the equipment, and out comes some oil, and then you're left with the byproduct. So the question really is, what do you do with that byproduct? The byproduct can be used for a couple different things. My cousin has a dairy farm, and they utilize it to feed the livestock at that point. Really high in nutrients, won't harm the cattle. It's actually some of the best protein that the livestock get. You can also sell it for, clothing, fiber. It's being used for alternative fuel. That's not really what our focus point is. We really have zero waste at that point because we will sell that off. But in the scheme of how much is left over relative to what we're starting with the biomass, it is very, very small. That's not something we're going to be storing on site. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm concerned with what's going to happen to it. I mean, you're going to bring in truckloads of the milled hemp, and then you're going to have truckloads of the extracted biomass that's left, and I want to make sure that's leaving. Is this site, in your intention, and this approval is going to be only for doing CBD oil on the property?
Correct.
You won't be doing anything else with that biomass other than extracting the oils, and then you will be disposing of that in some legal and lawful manner. for
Absolutely.
somebody, whether it be cows or some company that wants to buy it to make clothes out of.
Yep.
You won't be doing any of that on site.
No,
The only thing you
for
want
sure.
is the
No,
oil.
Yeah.
we neither want that on our site, nor do we want to process it in any other manner. Our intent is to sell it off, or even give it away. That's not really the core competency of our business.
Yeah, and to put it into perspective of dollars, you were asking what the cost of the oil is. The cost of the oil is about 100 times more valuable than the byproduct of the leftover biomass at that point. There's really very little value in that relative to the operation itself. So
I just want to limit to what you're doing to what you're doing.
hemp
Not
extraction.
suddenly see something else going on out there that has somehow making clothes. I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
you go from point A to point B, but somebody's doing that.
Yeah. Our operation is 100% oil-based, and nothing.
If
Nothing
somebody
more,
wanted to
nothing
make clothes, they'd have to come before us to build a plant to make the clothes,
Exactly.
not you.
Yep.
Is that true?
Just like
Yes.
with
If
It's a different use.
If I may, Chair Metcalf, Commissioner Bolin, within the CUP, the conditional permit resolution, we can put an item in that limits this to CBD oil extraction and that no textile type processing occurs at this site.
I'd like to
If
limit
that were to
use.
change, they could come back and apply to have it changed, but we could limit it to the oils and which is their current business model.
That's what I'd like to see in the resolution, is that we are, I have no problem with you guys doing what you're doing. But it sounds like you've done the homework and you've done the stuff. I just want to make sure that what we're approving is a hemp processing facility to extract CBD oil from that hemp.
That is a reasonable restriction.
Also, there needs to be some limitation to how much storage, on-site storage is. I don't want to be in the situation we were in with car tires in some locations where we ended up having 1 million car tires rather than having 100 or 200 or truckloads. We had 150 truckloads.
Chair Metcalf, Commissioner Bolin, any storage on site by default zoning code has to be inside or completely screened from view. Now, their initial product coming in, they have to store it inside. There's some FDA stuff. The stuff going out has to be inside or invisible. There's not much incentive to stockpile it.
Can I
I'm sorry.
interject for 1 second?
Yeah.
So a climate-controlled environment is a big deal in this industry because it's a desert. It's hot. The hotter it is, the more it degrades. We would have zero. I mean, it would defy common sense for us to store the raw biomass, the plant material outside. We'd be shooting ourselves in the foot and losing oil in the process of doing that. Therefore, it's literally going to go off the truck into the building. And I have no issues if you want to put stipulations in there to where we have to store it inside, because we don't want it out for the public to see anyways. But from our own business savviness, it needs to be inside. And then as far as the byproduct going out, that's packaged up and sent out with the truck at that point. There's going to be zero product sitting outside for monetary
My only
reasons.
concern is not the incoming, it's the outgoing.
Okay.
I mean, I understand you have to protect the product before you process it, or else the value is going to degrade very
Right.
fast. Whether it be rain, heat, wind, whatever, it's going to go fast. But it's the after product that is now cow food, which which has little no value, and we have one dairy left operating in this area. So the places you're going to be able to sell that to, give that to, remove it to, whatever, are becoming more and more limited. And that's what I want to know, that we have a place to get rid of that.
Yeah.
I'll have to have you come to the podium.
Can I help you guys?
Please. Yeah.
I'm up next on the agenda, but my name's Sean Dugan. I'm a local farmer here in the area, and I got to tell you, all this biomass, we love. It's green fertilizer. I mean, you put it right in the farms. They can plow it under. It's good for the soil. It's just gonna. It's biomass. I mean, that's what farmers are looking for, anyways, in their soils. When they add manure, or they even plow down. A lot of times, farmers will just plant a crop in the winter and they'll plow it under. It's just, they call it green fertilizer.
Yep, I
So-
understand, Mr. Dugan. I just want to make it clear that we're not going to have a stockpile, because we've had people stockpile things before, and then the city and the state has come along and had to pay to get rid of that stuff.
Absolutely, and as long as everybody's arranging for it to be moved off-site and be moved to someone that can utilize it on a farm or whatever, farmers will take it for free. You know, it's, like I said, it's free fertilizer.
Yeah, it would be better than manure we're spreading on the south end of town now, so, you know, that would
I don't know
definitely
if it's better manure. I mean, come on, cows, you know.
yeah, but we've got a guy that likes to fertilize his fields, and it's always an interesting thing. But thank you, Mr. Dugan.
And even that spent biomass has very little smell, just like the biomass
Yeah,
coming in.
like I said, I just want it
Yeah.
gone.
Yep.
I don't want to end up with
So,
a problem
as do we.
5 years from now that we've got a monster in our hands. Yes, sir, Mr. Miller.
Rick Miller, City Manager, just out of curiosity, if you get a sack of this product coming in, goes through the process, what quantity comes out of that one sack? And what percentage of it is product leaving? 6 by 6 by 6? Is it the
Yeah.
same amount? Is it
Oh, what?
50% or 20%?
Yeah, a lot less. So about 110 pounds of biomass will produce approximately 4 liters of crude oil, and then we refine a little bit more, and it might be 2 or 3 liters. So
But how much
Big suck.
mass is left of the original biomass? What is that? You put 110 pounds in, how much biomass will be left? And will it weigh 100 pounds?
nearly the same. Now it'll be wet biomass, in which we will put in a centrifuge so we can extract that ethanol, use it. But our goal is to get it as dry as possible again, in which case it won't weigh much less, although it'll be more condensed. So the volume will be less, the weight will be similar.
I want to be sure it goes away.
Yes,
I don't want to see a
as do
mountain.
we. We're on the same
I
page,
don't want to see a
Commissioner Boland.
mountain,
Thank you.
and Mr. Dugan runs a very good dairy, but he can tell you that a lot of his competitors have left town or left the business completely. And he's one of the few that has been able to stay on because of his systems of doing operations.
The other side of it is, we need to have biomass coming in consistently to turn it into oil. The last thing we want to do is be occupying our warehouse with spent biomass. So the sooner we can get that out, the sooner we can get new stuff going in.
Where is this product going to be grown at? Do we
Um,
have local growers, or have we got farmers?
It's
that
starting
will-
to surface a little bit with local people. Our primary people that we'll be getting it from right now are in Oregon. Oregon and Colorado seem to be the 2 largest players that are closest to us.
And it is legal to grow hemp in Arizona?
It is.
So some of these farmers that are growing cotton could grow hemp.
That's what's
Absolutely.
happening.
That's what's
So with the passing of that farm bill, you saw that potato farmer's field that was worth, $300 an acre is now worth a whole lot more if they start putting hemp in it. There's a lot of nuances to it, to where a lot of farmers don't want to take the risk. It's a plant that needs to be babied a little bit more than, say, throwing seed in the ground and just hoping it grows. So there's a little bit of a learning curve from the part of the farmer. And there's a farm in Eloy that's starting to grow it. But if you look at the quality level of the plant itself, it's like apples and oranges relative to what they're growing in Oregon.
Cotton takes something around 3+ acres of water to grow a cotton. What does it cost? What's it going to take for water for a hemp farm?
Ooh,
I don't
We're not
know.
getting
It's
into
kind of
farming
beyond
side.
our
That's beyond
scope.
your knowledge. Okay.
from what I
Yeah.
understand, it's less, but I can't really speak to that. That's
Yeah.
above my pay grade.
Chair Metcalf, Commissioner Boland, my understanding is that with medical marijuana and hemp, the water consumption is about a quarter that of cotton.
Yeah, because that's going to be a big player in our area. I mean, we've got 9,000 acres of solar farms, but we've also still got a lot of farmers.
It is a lot less water, and as opposed to cotton, you can turn multiple crops a year rather than one.
I know one of the concerns that came up with the council was, odor. And with us, I don't know if you noticed in that video, during the extraction process, we're cooling that temperature down. The video showed, I think, minus 41 degrees. But being that it's in a controlled environment indoors, the smell is minimal. But what you're seeing with the facility is it's surrounded by agriculture, it's surrounded by county land, and any of those fields could move over to hemp not processing, but growing hemp. And that's where you're going to notice the smell start to, where you're smelling dairies now, you're going to be smelling hemp in those agricultural places if those farmers are able to get past that learning curve of it.
And I have a house that I'm renting that's almost directly across from your property that you're doing, and that's going to be in a tenant-occupied property, so that's one of the reasons I'm asking all these questions.
You won't smell it from us.
So there is a smell, though, correct?
You'd have to get really close and inside of our facility to even get a partial. When we toured that facility in California, the person that was showing us around, he lifted up the machine to say, hey, smell this, and you couldn't smell the ethanol. In the room where they were storing the biomass, when you walked through it, you could smell it, but it wasn't heavy. When you were outside, absolutely no smell from inside. Yeah.
So
It's because it's dried and milled, it doesn't have the odor like it would with a wet.
So similar to a hay smell in a hay barn, you'd get the smell of hay, but it's not obnoxious, it's just,
It's there.
it's a biomass item, and so it has an odor, but it's not a nasty odor, it's not a detrimental odor. I mean, it's the location that makes me question this a lot, okay? Just simply because it's right across from our regional park, or our fields for all our kids to play ball on. And we've put a lot of money, time, and effort into building that park, and I certainly don't want it to be detracted from. We lost the last one because it had been a crop dusting field for 30 years before we went into it. So I want to make sure that we're not going to have a negative result for little kids that are 6 and 7 year old, because some of those are my grandkids.
I will say, by the time it's, visually more appealing, whether it's a block wall or putting plants or whatever it is around the property, it'll look considerably better than it currently looks. I was by there on a Saturday, and there's a landscaper operating, so he's got a lot of public patrons coming onto the property, and the place was hopping. There were a lot of people there. For us, the objective is to keep the public off the property. There's going to be, it's really just the one tenant that's going to be there, and then us and our staff that would be there. And with that building being tucked behind all the other buildings, the reality is it's going to look less used once we take over occupancy than it currently does. And the overall visual appearance will only be enhanced from the exterior.
I assume you're going to have multiple machines doing multiple processing at the same time.
Correct.
You're not going to have just one machine that does everything and you just wait.
Yeah, it's a series of equipment.
I have no more questions.
And if I could just add one other thing, Commissioner Ball, I appreciate you raising that concern. Both myself and Nate, we have children, and so we share the same concern. That's why safety is a big concern for us, and the appeal, making sure that there's no riffraff or anything of that nature going on at or around or near the property. And if I could just add one asterisk, Mr. Hanson indicated that they, on the conditional use permit, may be restricted to CBD extraction. There are other cannabinoids that we might be interested in extracting later. We don't know, but if we could widen that. It gets a little bit technical, but something called CBN and CBG that just help the body in different and better ways. Also non-psychoactive. The only psychoactive one is THC, which we don't would not be able to process. But just to have a little bit more open.
That being said, it's the exact same biomass that comes from.
Yeah, everything's exactly the same except for how you set the parameters on the equipment. That's the only thing that changes.
So if the resolution stated they are going to be extracting oils from biomass, and that would cover whatever kind of oils you wanted to extract without any efforts.
That's right.
But it would
fine.
be only the extraction of oils from biomass.
Alternatively, we could just limit this, say, no textile type processing shall occur at this site.
I don't know what else may occur. I don't want to limit, I want to know what they're doing, not telling them what they can't do.
Commissioner Boland, we can incorporate whatever the commission's preference is into the resolution.
Mr. Miller.
I'm just gonna, again, let me go over here real quick, so for the record.
Please.
I should probably use the microphone too. First of all, when they were at the planning, or when they went to the city council, it was when the council was considering amending the zoning code to allow these types of facilities. And first of all, this company's been very, very helpful, I think at the council level, helping them to understand many of the questions that you've asked as well. One of the questions I guess I had as I was listening to the conversation, you know, a big issue with the council was odors. Is there anything in your future that would cause you to want to save by doing your own drying and trimming on your property? And would you have any objections to making sure that drying and milling of the raw material would not happen on your property to keep those odors down?
I don't have any issue with that. Our core focus is the oil. You know, it's one of those things you don't know where that's going to take you down the road. But you need a considerable amount of room to get a dryer. By considerable, I'm talking 15, 20,000 square foot warehouses. And that building is not laid out for that configuration now. You know, being that there is those 3 acres plus another 5, I don't want to lock myself into something today that's going to stick with me from now to the end of time. But it would be on those other 5 acres. I don't see us getting into that anytime soon.
Chair Metcalf, if I may, Section 701 of the zoning code for garden industrial zone, Section B2 says any lighting placed so as to reflect the light away from adjacent residential zones. No noise, odor, or vibration shall be emitted so it exceeds the general level of noise, odor, or vibration emitted by uses outside the site. Such comparison shall be made at the boundary of the site. So while the odor consideration is legitimate, it is already covered within the code itself. I don't think we need to add anything else beyond what the code is already requiring.
Because they could use scrubbers or other things if they had to, if their process changes, and then keep the odor from,
I just don't see there being a big odor from the biomass other than a natural green type odor.
Yeah.
But I do see, you know, it's just getting rid of the materials and controlling it, and they seem to be doing that. And as Mr. Miller just stated, we want to not have them processing the hemp or milling the hemp on that property, because that would create probably much more odors, and that's where scrubbers and things like that would come in, and that's when that zoning code would cover what they could or couldn't do, I would think.
So if they created
Correct.
orders in that district, they would be in violation of the code.
That's right.
Yes,
So
they would.
If they suddenly started processing the raw hemp and milling it there, because of that, if they created odors, that would kick that code in, and they'd say, oh, wait a minute, now, stop, that's not what we agreed to.
We could compel them to mitigate it at that point.
Yeah, and that's where the scrubbers could be demanded.
Yeah, what we would have to do, that would be occurring indoors at that point, and then you would have scrubbers on the inside of the
Right.
building. Where the drying facilities are common are the places where it's commonly grown, because it's
Sure.
wet coming out of the field. With it not being grown here yet, that doesn't even come into play. But yeah, you're right, Tim, in the aspect of
If there's a market, they will come.
I think Commissioner Boland's point about just saying for oil processing and not naming the type is it would work perfectly as long as you can restrict the other.
Yeah, what they are telling me they want to do is to remove oils from a biomass product.
Right.
And that sounds like a fine deal to me.
Anybody else have any questions?
Chair Metcalf, we haven't formally opened the public hearing at this
I know.
point? Okay.
I know.
Okay. I didn't want to miss it.
I knew that. Okay. You guys can sit down.
Commissioners,
and then I'll
thank you very
open the
much.
Public section up and we'll. Okay, I'm going to now open the meeting to the public. Anyone that has anything to say or speak about or anything else, come to the podium. There being none, public section is closed. I'll entertain a motion.
There is just, Mr. Chair, there is a provision that the applicant agrees to dedicate to the city of Coolidge without compensation 75 feet along the east side of Christensen Road of the subject property for right-of-way purposes. That's pretty standard, and I think Tim probably mentioned that.
I discussed that with the applicant. This is related to our comprehensive transportation plan, pretty standard among new development. You dedicate the half width of the roadway as designated. Christensen is a principal arterial, 150 feet of right-of-way, 6 lanes. Someday.
So that's the only recommendation we have besides the regular findings.
Beyond
Right.
perhaps the oil only,
Yeah, that
if commission chooses.
that's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to approve Cool PZ 19-12-52 and Resolution 20-01 as present, with the amendments discussed.
Motion has been made to approve and deny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion and the resolution passes. Cool PZ 19-12-53, a conditional use permit application submitted by Spectrum 8 for a hemp processing facility located at 3382 West Highway 287, Coolidge, Arizona. APN 401-12-002K and Resolution 20-02.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, this is the same type of request. We do have the property owner here that spoke a little earlier, and he can give you any information regarding any differences, but it's basically the same. There are no requirements as far as additional ones for right-of-way because of its State Highway 287.
If I may, there isn't a right-of-way dedication requirement because this property of 45 acres plus 5 in the back is subject to a prior conditional use for medical marijuana cultivation, and that right-of-way dedication was handled through that conditional use permit. It was also 75 feet. 287 is a principal arterial in our plan as well. So on this map here, this area in the back, this is where they're currently doing medical marijuana cultivation, though the entire site has been authorized for it. The area outlined in red is what is applied for hemp processing, with the intended location being right up here in some existing buildings in the front. This area is pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know that limiting it to oil only, which was probably appropriate on the previous site, is necessary at this location. The applicant hasn't indicated any desire to pursue anything other than that, but as staff, we don't see the need to add that restriction given the location and the nothingness surrounding it.
There's a generator across the street, as you can see. closer to Lama Corner that's operating. It actually is a working gin. There's an abandoned gin, the Robertson, just to the west or east. I'm sorry. So there's already some pretty heavy industrial type uses there.
Some of those agricultural fields surrounding it may very well convert to hemp in the future as well.
This is a site that was a dairy that has gone out of business and closed.
Yes,
So that's what's there now. Where's the closest houses? Are they across the street and what looks like maybe a quarter of a mile away?
that is correct. It is approximately a quarter mile south. We can see kind of right down here, large lot, acre and a quarter minimum. Some of them are bigger than that. There's a handful of houses in there. There's several available parcels.
But there are no houses adjoining this property at this time and in any direction.
No, there are not. These structures to the east are remnants of a cotton gin, as are these here.
Yep.
This is Stott's equipment right here.
Yep.
And then there are some houses up here, which is almost at least 3/4 of a mile away from the northeast boundary, over a mile from the intended processing building.
The restrictions that we put on this gentleman's, I don't see need to be applied to this one either from your, just based on where it's at. And because there is no high level of activity, homes or children's playgrounds or those kind of things occurring within a significant distance.
Commissioner Boland's staff agrees with that assessment.
Absolutely.
So, I don't have a problem with it at all at that location. Locations are everything. And being off a major road will mean good transportation and that kind of thing. And if they can grow that hemp around that surrounding area or any of that area, that would be a big plus to the developer being able to get it close by. They will then have to dry it and operate it, and that could happen on that property based on what we're approving. Is that correct, or are they going to need a special permit to start processing harvested hemp?
That use could be done on this property.
Okay, and would they need another permit to do that?
It would fall under hemp processing based on the definition, the way it's defined in our code, the post-cut processing of dried or wet herbal material for production purposes.
Okay.
Is essentially what it says.
Yeah, it's an ag process, so.
And that's what I'm thinking. It's an ag process, so there shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be any different than them storing feed under those plastic tarps.
Right. Or being a dairy that
gets pretty potent smelling sometimes when it's opened up.
It certainly shouldn't.
I've driven by your dairy more than once. After 62 years in this area, I've driven by it more than once.
Well, and theirs doesn't. I think they do a really good job of taking care of it because it doesn't. So does the relatives over down by the college, because the Dugans have been in that business so long. There's other dairies I've driven by that are bad compared.
I understand that.
They just, man.
But
this one's not like, this is really good.
Something that's normal agricultural odor,
Mm-hmm.
and much less than what a dairy produces as agricultural odor.
And most it's the smell of money, so that's all right.
Yeah.
It's something we get used to being in
The color's the same, too.
Yep.
Okay. I'm good. I have no more questions.
Okay, I'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone want to speak? If you want to speak again, you're more than...
Unless you guys got any questions for me.
I'm good, sir.
I don't. Anybody else have a question? Okay.
These guys got grilled, so they answered all the questions.
Yeah, they answered all, they did all the work.
If you had been switched, then you would have been spending the grill.
Very grateful to Mr. Hastings and Mr. Slater right now.
Yes. Okay, I'll close the public, opening to the public, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Cool PZ 19-12-53 and Resolution 20-02 as presented.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? There being none, the motion and the resolution passes. Next section, report from the Chairman of Development Services, and he better have some good news for us.
Mr. Chair, there are good news. We've got a lot of ongoing, as Mr. Bolin would probably attest to, we have a lot of ongoing construction in the city. Some big projects are breaking ground. We expect the 2 100-megawatt solar facilities to break ground beginning of this year and start. They're in plan review right now, so those are huge. And then we have we'll be meeting with some Nikola executives pretty quickly, talk about that. So we should have other news coming forward. But everything looks really positive at this point. So we're working on some of the things. I was looking at some of the things we've done in 2019, and there's a lot of things that have occurred in the city over the last year and started in 2018. So we've made a tremendous jump in permits and evaluations. So that's all good news. So we'll have more information specifically for you we can share. I'm trying to put together some numbers, things like that. So, and I'll answer any questions you may have. But it's everything's very positive at this point. So.
We asked at a prior meeting if there would be a possibility of getting a rough estimate of number of building permits issued per month, even if it's for a month in arrears. In other words, if we could know what would happen in November, because I know it's hard to do, the first week after to tell us what happened in December. But if we could get that information so we'd have some kind of an idea where we are on building permits, whether it be homes, walls, flagpoles, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, where's that flagpole?
Laying down, getting ready to get painted. I got a building permit today to install it.
Commissioner Bolin, our office currently produces a monthly report for council outlining code enforcement, building permits, planning cases, everything. We'd be happy to distribute a copy of that to the commissioners with their monthly packets.
Right. Carol's working on that right now. I'm doing more of an annual, and we can share that with you also. It's pretty comprehensive. And
I'd like to know what we're doing.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm putting together using my skills when I got my MBA to develop some charts for you that they kind of show the progression from 2016 to now on permits, how they've increased, and it's pretty dramatic, to say the least. So it's you'll be impressed.
And it's just warming up, Gilbert.
I know.
It's going to get a lot better.
Yep. Oh yeah. So that's absolutely true.
Yes, it is. Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, call to the public. Anybody have anything to say? Thank you. Our pleasure.
Happy New Year. Thank you for all your help.
Okay, I have a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
A second?
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's closed.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Al, I appreciate you being the chairman.